So we're just looking at the best individual hurling performance of the decade. It's only when you actually put them down on paper that you see just how many there actually are. It's unbelievable.
It's wall to wall.
It is wall to wall. We just started off with the first one and then kind of in no particular order, and then we'll vote. We'll give our best one basically. Patrick Horgan against Kilkenny this year in the All-Ireland quarter-final, 3-10. What I liked about it most is kind of defiance in defeat, because it's easy performing when things are going well, and it was just like he was limited enough in the supply that he got at times, but he was absolutely deadly when he got the ball.
Well, the rest of his team kind of, it's harsh enough now, but I felt they gave up as a team, and Kilkenny arm wrestled them. They were in great position, they could have won the game. There you have Horgan scoring, was it 3-10? Gets himself nominated for Hurler of the Year on the strength of performing unbelievably well in the toughest of circumstances there, not to mention against Limerick, the Rein All-Ireland champions at the start. So I think that has to be 3-10 was insane.
Goal off his knees as well, remember?
Like. What more do you want? But like that's in contrast very much with another one on our list, which is Lara Corbett scoring 4-4 against Waterford 2011. He did it on a day when Tipper were running downhill and they were up against basically a bunch of garbage cans that day.
He was unbelievable that same day. It almost set him up for a bit of a fall kind of later on the year almost then when they played Kilkenny in the All-Ireland final. But that performance, second on set, scored 7 goals. He scored 4-4, was it?
Yeah, 4-4.
It's a ridiculous performance. Just on Lar as well, 7 possessions in the 2010 All-Ireland final, 3-1. Like, it doesn't get much better than that as well. 2 unbelievably good individual performances.
Not to mention a goal when a hurley was being thrown at him. You know? Actually, of those 2, just on Lar, I would give I would edge the 2010 ahead of the 2011.
Me too, yeah. So it's an All-Ireland final.
We'll forget the 2011.
Against Kilkenny.
Yeah.
You know.
Joe Canning against Tip 2017. I actually think he had a poor first half of that game. So this is the semi-final that Galway won against Tipperary and went on to win the All-Ireland. I thought he had a very poor first half. I remember commenting at half-time with a couple of other journalists, he hasn't got going at all. But second half, last 5 scores of the game, am I right in saying?
Yeah, you can go further than the bad first half.
Yeah, 50 minutes.
50 minutes, I'd say, yeah. One of the boys in the WhatsApp group said, take off Joe. Big Joe has to go. And then he scores the last 5 scores. And that, like, iconic picture, that iconic reaction, everything underneath the cues. It's just, it's a cameo nearly more than a performance. But it was a case, and I think that's even one of the reasons why he got Hurler of the Year that year. It was like a case of, you know, a fella putting a team on his back when the need was the greatest.
And to be fair to him as well, at the opening stages of the final against Waterford, I thought that's when he played his best stuff within that final too, which was important at the start of a game. But
Conor Rein in 2013, I presume it's the drawn game. I didn't write that one in. I presume it's the drawn game. He started centre back, didn't he?
He was man of the match himself. Himself and Seamus Harnedy, marking each other, both had insanely good performances on each other. But he got man of the match. So
it was like 2 boys in a trial game, basically saying, "You hit this ball, I hit this one." Except it was an All-Ireland final.
And you can't not mention Shane O'Donnell in the replay. 3-3.
That's dream scenario, realistically. Yeah,
and
dream scenario. He barely, like, they were probably again kind of like Lar. They were like nearly his only touches of the ball, and there were scores.
I'd say for him, his life was a bit like the Beatles going on, you know, their first big tour date or their first big show on telly or radio or whatever. Life just changed from that moment.
And he just, considering that he looked like someone from One Direction as well, like he's just like superstardom, in fairness, all in. It's mad, isn't it? Like, had barely started a championship game for Clare up until that, parachuted in for the final, played no minutes in the drawn game to the best of my knowledge, and then comes in and scores 3-3. Savage.
Kevin Moran earlier in the championship, remember down in Thurles against Kilkenny, the game that went to extra time, and Kilkenny kicked on in extra time, but he gave it reminded me a bit of, do you remember Dermot O'Connor played for Mayo against Kildare in that Newbridge game, and you were tired watching him. He did so much running, and eventually, like, Kevin Moran keeled over and got sick on the field.
Did he get the drawn score? He got the drawn score to send it to extra time.
I think maybe Owen Larkin had been chasing him down and it looked like he would get him, but somehow
that's right, it didn't look like he could get the strike in at all, actually.
It was an amazing performance. So, I mean, it was just one of those tireless, breathless, won't be bet sort of performance, and I know they were in extra time, but it was great stuff.
Seamus Conlan then the next one, obviously, again in defeat as well, and Tip were really struggling that day. It was against Galway in the 2015 All-Ireland semi-final. He gave Pádraig Mannion an awful going over, and
John Hanbury went in there eventually.
John Hanbury went in on him. nobody else around him really was playing anyway well.
Scored 3-9. Do you know, like, and
yeah.
like 5 of those were from place balls, as in 5 points. So 3-4 from play was just hilarious.
And if you're just looking at the rest of the scores, you know, John O'Dwyer 2, and then, you know, 5 other players 1 point. He basically carried them on his back that day.
But I'd have to say the flip side is all the eggs were put in the basket of get Conlan in there on the ball on his own, to the detriment of every other player, because they were all pulled out the field. Plan A, B and C was to get the ball to him. It's funny that he'd scored 3-8 the year before against Galway also.
That's right. He was on Ronan Burke, and he got the goal that kind of changed Tip's season that year.
Oh, it was very much nip and tuck till about the hour mark. Do you remember Lara scored a beauty from 45 or the 65 over the shoulder, textbook Lara score?
That's right. Yeah.
TJ Reid against Galway 2019, down to 13 men. Snapping ball for sport. I think the 42 had like a panel of stats out there, and it was ridiculous, clean catches, all this kind of stuff, and
it was a complete performance.
Yeah,
fairness. And then on the flip side of that, then Henry 7 years previous in the drawn All-Ireland final against Galway, when again things weren't going well for Kilkenny. We were so used to seeing so many different forwards contributing, and nobody was really contributing, and he just picked them up. I just remember
he actually wasn't contributing.
No, he wasn't on. Yeah, even in the first half.
Doing the stats at the time, he started off corner forward. Fergal Moore was on him. First 9 balls that went in, Shefflin won 1 ball.
Go ahead.
So he came out then around the 28th minute or something like that, went out to centre forward, and I remember often saying it to Matty Kenny, who was involved with the management team at the time, why didn't you send Fergal Moore to just stay out with him and stick to him? Then of course you have this idea, then does that mean if you drag someone else out it's going to be 2 versus 2 inside, and where do you move Tony O'Gregan from centre back to corner back? So there was a bit of a conundrum there, but definitely that game turned on that, and
there was a catch and you could just see him, he was just like he was basically going to do everything he possibly could. Of course, he famously put the 21, or was it a penalty, put over the bar?
Yeah,
it was a penalty. It could have been an even better performance if he went for a goal.
Are you going to call him a coward?
Joe has said it already at the time, so there's no need for me to say.
John Conlan against Wexford 2014. Like Wexford, Clare were the All-Ireland champions. Remember there was a couple of red cards. If I remember correctly, it was Brendan Bugler and Jack Brown both got sent off.
Yeah.
And Clare went down to 13 men. And like Wexford at the time were no great shakes. I mean, they were improving a bit. They were definitely improving under Liam Dunn, but they definitely weren't anyone's All-Ireland contender. Clare had knocked them out the year before en route to the All-Ireland. But they went down to 13 men. And John Conlan gave one of the most exceptional performances I've ever seen. Scored 1-5 from play, despite his team eventually being down to 13 men.
And realistically, he was. I only vaguely remember the game now, but realistically, would have been a man in front of him a lot of the time as well. At least one, because they were playing a sweeper because of the extra man at the time. Yeah, so even better again. But if you're down a couple of men, having a powerhouse like that makes some difference. Like.
Yeah. And I remember afterwards when Wexford won, this was such a huge thing, and that song "The Gambler" was roaring out at their dressing room underneath. It was great stuff.
Jamie Barron then, of course, against Kilkenny in 2017. I remember being down at the game. I was standing on the is it the Conlan end down in Thurles? The Conlan end down in Thurles, and you were just looking at it, and Waterford were up about 6 points. Barron had been unbelievable, and Kilkenny clawed it back. Morris missed a free, I think, to win it in injury time, and then they went to extra time, and having been unreal in normal time, Barron was savage in extra time and got that famous goal with the boss of the hurl turned the wrong way. You kind of only realised it after, but he was unreal. He threw the dummy hand pass kind of and sent Murphy to one side of the goals.
Send him for a taxi.
Yeah, but he was on. That was one of many performances. He was probably the hurler of the year that year. In realistically looking back,
so it was himself, Kevin Moran and Joe Canning that were nominated, and definitely if Watford had won, and of course it was still split vote back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was still split.
It was Jamie Barron all day for me. Michael Fennelly against Tip in 2011. Now I had a bit of a debate with my brother about this one, and I hadn't updated. Michael Fennelly, I think the shoulder that he did on Shane McGrath stands out, and also the goal he scored in that game, but JJ Delaney was possibly actually even better, But he actually got man of the match, and Seamus Conlan had a very tough day, and him possibly even taken off at half time, certainly early in the second half, and he's probably up there. Like JJ Delaney's had some unbelievable,
yeah. The one, it's not this decade, but the one where he marked Dan and caught a load of high ball over his head is the one that stands out. But yeah, JJ, like even JJ's performance, I know Conlan got a good few scores off him, the hook and the performance in the replayed semi-final as well.
Conlan got 6 points in the first game, he got 2 goals from playing the second.
Yeah, you know, but he was unreal in fairness. Yeah, there's obviously one then very, very recently, Brendan Matter against Ballygunner in the Munster Club final. Just a tour de force, really. Just basically a lad that just kind of, you know, when the ball flicked up, he's not even in picture. When the ball flicked up, he comes in, puts the hurl out, flicks it on, puts over a score without even like setting himself at all. And it was just a signal that, you know, they were, if they were going to be beaten, they were going to go down with their boots on, and they ended up winning. It was totally against the odds. It was unbelievable performance.
And of course, some of the balls he came out with from ruck situations, bursting out through players.
Free taken as well for a defender as well. He missed one free that day, I think it was, but the rest he was just cool as ice, in fairness. Mike Casey then is the last one. Love a good defensive performance. It was in the 2018 All-Ireland Club final against Coola. He was on Conor Callaghan, and Con got a point. To the best of my knowledge, the point was relatively late in the game as well. It was just a real tigerish performance. It was in Croke Park. He just never gave him a sniff, and Con was after banging in a double figure of goals throughout that campaign. He was just unbelievable, and kind of Mike Casey showed the sort of form that he showed them at Limerick later on that year. He was unreal.
The Pierce are very good collectively, but you can't always protect a player from one-on-one situations. He was unbelievable that day. And the thing I'd say, like the replay, if I remember correctly, down in O'Moore Park, we were possibly a point down going into injury time late on in the game, having been 6 up midway through the second half, and Mike Casey had to go off. I think he'd been ill.
That's right,
last few minutes, Con goes to town. He scores a point, wins a free that's knocked over, and sets up a point, all in late on in the game. And these are the kind of differences. Who knows how it would have panned out anyway, but I think it just goes to show, like, Con was very decisive in the very end, so that even just highlights even more how good Casey was
when he wasn't there.
So we're going to have to pick one.
I have 2. One's a club and one's a county. The best club performance I've seen in this decade was Owen Larkin gave the most perfect performance I've ever seen in the 2011 Kilkenny Senior Final against Ballyhale.
Was it 111 or something? No wides.
111, no wides, 8 frees, 1 3 from play, and it was the only time I've ever seen it in a match. He literally did not do anything wrong with any ball he got. Even the hooks or the flicks he got in, everything that he was involved in or was near was productive that day. He gets a goal where there's 4 lads chasing after him. I don't even know how he swung the hurl. It was an unbelievable performance. That's the best club performance I've ever seen. County performance, I don't think it's because it's so fresh. I just think it's because it was that good. TJ against Galway this year is as good as I've seen. He was double marked at times. While it's grand, the inside forward, I'm not saying like Patrick Horgan, I'm just saying the inside forward, the ball is given to you somewhat and you're to put it over the bar. TJ was winning the ball himself, doing all the hard work. He was winning the ball, winning frees, scoring. Like it was phenomenal. To me, it was a complete forward display. He was setting up scores. He was doing everything that you want a good forward doing.
It's so hard to pick, and obviously people will message in with their favourite team. Please do, but I'm gonna go with John Conlan against Wexford in 2014 because I don't know. I was down there that day.
Do you know why you're going for that? Because you've pissed off the people from Clare enough already, and you're just like, I'm going to give them this one. I've basically dogged them for the last decade, and I'm going to give them this one.
I'm never going to stop dogging them until they step up and win a bit more. No, it's honestly now. I was down there, white hot atmosphere. It was one of those brilliant occasions. They'd already drawn in Ennis beforehand, and to go down by 2 men and still produce this sort of it was just one of those old school heroic sort of performances against the odds. And there are so many ones that you could pick out there, and a lot of them in far more kind of suitable circumstances. Like Shane Donald scored 3-3 against a very open Cork team. You know, Lara Corbett scored is 3-1, but that was on a winning day. This is on a day when it was nothing but like you picking TJ. You know, down to 13 men. So I think, and against the odds performance, I'm going to have to go with John Conlan.
And you're going to have to finish it by saying, well, Derek Lynch, what do you think?